Thanks for joining us today. Welcome to the Adelaide Capital Silver Conference. I'm Deborah Honig, and I have my colleague Tina Byers with me.
Hi.
Tina. So we've got an exciting lineup of silver companies today. And before we get into that, I thought we would just talk a little bit about Adelaide Capital because it's been quite a journey for us becoming virtual. This is our second virtual conference. The first one we did in April, which was on COVID and healthcare. So we've gotten very used to the Zoom format and the virtual conferences. So we're really excited about this one. I think it's going to be a lot of fun this afternoon. The price of silver is certainly working for us today. Unfortunately, a lot of the issuers are not reacting, but as Michael just said before this, it's probably going to be a catch-up trade here. But Tina's more of a fundamentalist than myself, so I'm sure she can talk a little bit more about the dynamics of this, what's going on in the silver markets.
Yeah, it's been an interesting morning, and I think the timing is really interesting for this conference as well. We've seen some good price action in both gold and silver over the last few weeks and in the event of the COVID crisis, but I think there's a lot of reasons to be bullish on the precious metal space in general, and particularly in the silver space. I think this crisis we're still at the beginning of seeing all the consequences of the liquidity that's coming into the market, and with the Fed action yesterday obviously being very accommodative, I think it's pretty supportive of precious metals in general.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that the companies that we chosen today are fantastic, and I'm really excited to hear a lot of the stories. Before we get into that, we had a couple of people that we wanted to thank, which first off, I wanted to thank David Morgan of the Silver Report and Chris Vermeulen of the technicaltraders.com. They both were kind enough to do interviews giving a little bit of background on silver and what silver looks like technically in the lead up to this conference. So thank you both very much. That was super helpful for us as well as for the audience. And yeah, like we said, Adelaide Capital's very bullish on this space. We're excited to have all these issuers here, as well as we just signed a company in the silver space, which is Exelon, as a full-time IR client. And I'm just going to load up some charts because, as some people know, I am a CMT, although I'm a little bit rusty, so I'm not as good as Joe Farrell or some of the other guys out there. So here's our disclaimer. We are not investment advisors and we're not authorized to give advice, so just be aware of that. And when we're going through the company presentations, make sure you're aware of that there will be forward-looking statements, and you can check out the company's disclosure if you'd like to know more about what those are and the risks involved in investing in junior mining. So I put together a few charts last night. This is the 1-year silver chart. As you can see, it was in an ascending triangle formation, and then when COVID sort of hit, at least in the Western world, you saw, like the overall markets, a massive decline in price, which bottomed out, and a nice recovery afterwards. When you look at the movement and the momentum indicators, you can see like this is such a huge movement in a short time frame. But really, when you start to like take it back to the 10-year chart, which like it is a drastic movement, but you're still really only what I believe is in the beginning of a bull market for the commodity. You look back in 2011, I think it hit $48. So technically there's still a lot of room to go. I mean, it has to break above some resistance levels here. When I look at the 3-year chart, you see this drastic price movement, but still like the recovery hasn't even hit the highs that silver was at in 2019. And then when I look at specific companies, and I did them alphabetically, not as they present today, Discovery Metals shows a very similar formation to silver, which is not surprising, but you see it come up pretty strong since the recovery. And when you look at the momentum indicators on this one, something that really strikes me is they're a little bit overextended, maybe on the MACD side, but certainly not on RSI. You see there's a bit of consolidation here. You'll see that amongst a lot of the companies that I've charted that are presenting today. Seems like there's a lot of flag formations happening over the last 2 weeks. which with this kind of price action would indicate that it's just a consolidation phase before the stocks hopefully head higher. As I said, I'm not an advisor, so don't take my advice on that, but that's the way it looks to me technically. And then Endeavor, a similar formation, less of a drastic move off the bottom, but still you can see sort of the decline and then the breakout above certain levels. When you look at the momentum indicators on Endeavor, I certainly see a lot of room to go for this stock. It's not really an overbought territory for me, from my perspective. And then Exelon, also similar formation. This was in a channel rather than a triangle or wedge heading into the decline. We've certainly seen it rally off the lows. You see a lot of volume coming back into the stock. Again, on RSI, still not overextended. A little bit of a consolidation formation happening here. Same with here with GR Silver. This is more of a traditional flag. GR certainly had sort of a consolidation phase heading into March, a decline, and then a very strong rally. You can see the momentum indicators actually, to me, look like they've recovered from overbought levels, and they look positioned to go higher. Silvercrest, much like GR, has had a strong move from the decline. What's interesting about Silvercrest is they were actually one of the few stocks, I think, that I looked at in the silver space that were actually moving higher headed into the crisis. Most other ones were flat, consolidating, or in a slight decline. So again, got hit, but it's been a really strong movement since. And then when I look at the stocks on a relative performance basis, technically, silver is the silver line. And then I tried to pick company logo colors to be representative. The one thing that really struck me about this is you see black represents GR Silver, the gold yellow color is Silvercrest, and the green is Discovery. So you look, they were underperforming silver heading into the crisis, but those three stocks have performed in line, if not better than silver since March. Whereas you look at Endeavor and Exelon, which were outperforming silver, or at least in line headed into the crisis, and they have, well, in my opinion, visually have underperformed. But that's just one layperson CMT that barely uses it anymore's view. I think I've taken up the right amount of time.
Just a note that Reina Silver is not on there because they just started trading on Monday, but they had closed on a 20-cent private placement and it's already trading at 65 cents. So it kind of shows the level of interest in this space. But I think on the retail side of things, like in the US, you're still seeing retail investors buying companies that are essentially bankrupt. So I don't think the retail investor comprehends the magnitude of everything that's been going on and the potential downside we could see in the market. So I think we're still in the very early stages of a rally in both gold and silver.
Thank you, Tina. This is why I brought Tina on, because I meant to mention that Reina wasn't on the chart, not because I dislike Reina. I quite like it, but charting Reina was about 4 bar charts that looked, or 4 candlesticks, which is, you know, there's so many books you can read, but you can't chart something on 4 days, not effectively. Anyway, so thank you, Tina.